The cafe was flooded with daylight, the kind that makes dust sparkle and turns ordinary moments into quiet confessions. And in that bright room, a single fragile sentence changed everything for a man who thought he had already lost the part of himself that still believed in miracles. She stood there with metal crutches braced against her arms, shoulders drawn inward, as if apologizing for taking up space, and the weight of her shame felt heavier than the steel she leaned on. He noticed it not because he wanted to, but because something in his chest cracked open at the sight. Before the story truly unfolds, if you believe kindness deserves second chances and that broken moments can lead to beautiful beginnings, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Midnight Tales to help stories like this reach hearts that need them. Rowan Hale had come into the cafe only to escape the noise of the world for a few minutes. A single father navigating life between school drop-offs, late board meetings, and the echo of a house that still remembered laughter that was gone. By day, he was the CEO of a rapidly growing tech firm, a man whose name carried weight in glass towers and conference rooms. But in the sunlight of that cafe, he was just a tired father with coffee growing cold in his hands. Across the room, Mira Solis moved carefully, every step measured, every glance lowered as though she feared being seen. The crutches told a story before her eyes ever could, and the way she tried to make herself smaller spoke of wounds deeper than any injury. Mira had not planned on stopping there that morning. She rarely did anything unplanned anymore. Life after the accident had become a series of calculated moves, each one designed to avoid stares, whispers, and that sharp laugh she sometimes heard in her head when people pretended not to notice her limp. Daytime was the hardest because the light revealed everything, including her fear. She had once been a dancer, her days defined by movement and grace, until a careless driver in a moment of impact rewrote her future. Now she worked part-time illustrating children's books, pouring motion into paper because her body no longer obeyed the same commands. Walking into the cafe felt like a small act of bravery she almost turned back from. Rowan saw the struggle in her before she ever reached the counter. He watched as she adjusted her grip, the faint tremor in her arms betraying how much effort it took to stand there. And he felt an old ache resurface. The one he carried since his wife's sudden passing had forced him to learn strength the hard way. Loss had taught him to read pain quickly. He moved without thinking, steadying a chair before she reached it, offering presence instead of pity. In that quiet moment, something shifted for both of them, though neither could have named it yet. The days that followed brought small intersections of fate. Mira began stopping by the cafe more often, choosing the same sunlit table where she could draw and feel almost normal. Rowan found himself adjusting his schedule, lingering longer than necessary, pretending to read emails while watching the way she sketched life back into the world. They never spoke in the traditional sense. Instead, their connection grew through shared silences, gentle smiles, and the unspoken understanding between two people carrying grief in different shapes. Rowan's son, Theo, sometimes joined him after school, and Mira noticed how Rowan knelt to meet his child at eye level, how patience lived naturally in him. As weeks passed, Mira's walls began to thin. She allowed herself to imagine a future that wasn't defined by what she had lost. Rowan, in turn, felt something awaken that he had buried beneath responsibility and routine. He never mentioned his company, never hinted at the empire he ran by day, because in Mira's presence, he didn't need to be anything other than a man learning how to hope again. What he didn't realize was that Mira carried her own fears of discovery, terrified that if he knew how broken she felt inside, he would look at her the way others had. The truth revealed itself slowly, as truths often do. One afternoon, a group of sharply dressed executives entered the cafe, their conversation buzzing with recognition as they spotted Rowan. The room shifted as whispers followed his name, and Mira felt the ground tilt beneath her. The man she had come to care for wasn't just a kind stranger with tired eyes. He was someone powerful, someone with a world far removed from her own fragile rebuilding. Shame crept back in, louder this time, convincing her she didn't belong anywhere near his life. Mira withdrew after that day, her absence leaving a hollow space at the sunlit table. Rowan noticed immediately. Days stretched without her presence, and the cafe felt colder despite the daylight. He realized then how deeply she had settled into his heart, how her quiet courage had inspired him more than any professional victory ever had. He sought her out not as a CEO, not as a savior, but as a man unwilling to let fear steal another chance at connection. When they finally crossed paths again, the air was thick with unspoken emotion. Mira expected judgment or polite distance. Instead, she found acceptance waiting for her, steady and unmovable. Rowan saw her crutches not as symbols of weakness, but as evidence of survival. He saw her art, her resilience, and the way she had already become part of his son's world through gentle kindness. In that clarity, Mira understood that the laughter she feared had never lived in his heart. Their lives didn't transform overnight. Healing rarely does. Mira continued her physical therapy, slowly regaining strength, while Rowan learned how to open his home and heart again without fear of loss paralyzing him. Daytime walks replaced late-night solitude, and sunlight became a witness to their shared progress. Theo found joy in Mira's drawings, and Mira found purpose in illustrating stories that mirrored her own journey of falling and rising again. Just before the ending, a special request from the heart. Please comment below and share what this story made you feel, because your words matter more than you know. By the time autumn light softened the city, Mira no longer flinched at her reflection, and Rowan no longer hid behind titles and schedules. Their love wasn't loud or dramatic. It was steady, rooted in compassion and the understanding that everyone carries invisible weight. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can change lives and that second chances are real, please engage with this video, like it, share it, and let Midnight Tales know that stories like this deserve to be told. In the end, it wasn't the crutches or the title that defined them, but the quiet courage to believe in each other under the honest light of day.